Today we're going to be doing that technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Nvidia, and we're just going to hop right into it because some big things are happening right here. I did just circle right here on the SPY. This is an hourly chart here, and we do have that weekly range up for this talk, okay? So we do land within this zone 68% of the time. Always good to remind ourselves that, but the big thing that I wanted to point out here is the MACD is officially rolling over into that negative territory. So we have to see if we're able to get into deeper levels of that negative territory and start that negative trend. Most likely you do need to take out this low to start that negative trend and come down possibly even to the bottom of the weekly range. Okay, you can see the bottom of the weekly range here would be the closing of some kind of big overall cupping, and then maybe we do get a handle at the end of the week, and then maybe we actually see some further downside later on with this negative trend fully beginning. The other way you can look at it is you have a high, you have a lower high, you do have a low, but this I wouldn't necessarily consider a lower low at this point. We need to make a significant lower low, possibly come into that weekly range there. Maybe we use this little bit right here as some support to then get some kind of handle and head to lower levels. So it really looks like we're starting that negative trend, but because we are seeing some big swings, right? We're getting a swing up, swing down, swing up, swing down, swing up, swing down. Don't be surprised if this does want to pop up again or even come above these highs. We haven't fully started that negative trend, okay? So I just wanted to point that out. There is still a chance that we do get some kind of run up one more time before we actually see this negative trend fully begin by making that lower low. Now, the Qs were overall what I wanted to talk about because it's very cool how we are really closing this cup, right? We just talked about a cup on the SPY, but we can see on the Qs, we actually did close that cup, and then we did form that kind of handle here, okay? So we do get that handle. We have to see if this is going to confirm, right? We have to see if we're going to take out this level here and then start to head to lower levels, okay? So we want to see, is this negative trend going to continue? Right now, it is in that negative territory on the MACD, so we are in a negative trend, right? We're getting those lower highs at this point, and then we do have those lower lows. So we have to see if we're going to continue, and maybe we do hold up right around that weekly expected move, and then we try to test this level right here that we just broke out of. If this whole thing was able to play out, we actually would get down towards that bottom of the monthly expected move. That's what options have priced in for the whole month of December here. So we really want to pay attention. And since all of this negative trend is starting when the Fed is going to give their decision, we have to think, are people thinking that there is going to be a pivot announced where the Fed has actually come out multiple times and said higher for longer? So if they do come out with that higher for longer narrative, maybe we actually do see stocks start to suffer a little bit harder from that information next week. We also have CPI and things like that. So next week is going to be just as interesting as this one. And we're going to pay attention to what these stocks do before our next big data drop, which is Friday. Now, Apple here, we were just paying attention to because it has an actual positive trend, right? We have this high and we have a higher high. And if we do set up some kind of, higher low at this point, you can see another extension because we are in that positive territory on the MACD. So it just tells us that we still need to be a little cautious and not get too bearish because you do have some stocks that look like they're consolidating and might want to head higher before they break down. In order for Apple to head down from here, we notice this consolidation, so it can hit a little bit higher, right? Because we're getting that consolidation. But let's talk about the bearish side. Okay, the bearish side, you're going to need this to roll over and get into that negative territory. So really, maybe what you would want to see is some kind of dramatic drop down to that weekly expected move again, and then use that as some support and get back in this consolidation to then set up some kind of lower high right up in this area. Amazon's one I wanted to show you on the daily just because these Bollinger Bands are so tight. And the last time these Bollinger Bands really got tight was right over here, right? We were paying attention when they were tight here. We got that explosive move down and an immediate explosive move up. So the fact that these are tight means that we can see explosive moves up. We can see explosive moves down. I do believe that if the Fed actually does stay with the narrative of higher for longer, because people are kind of going with that pivot mentality now, that actually can really shake up the markets. We really need to pay attention to that next week. As far as the hourly on Amazon, I would say it is really just struggling to get back into that positive territory, to really break and hold through these levels and start that positive trend. You still have that series of those lower highs, right? But you do see here how we do have this high to a higher high. So if this does want to base out here, you could see another leg on the bullish case higher because you are close to that positive territory. Now, if this does want to break through this low, then we would really want to see, is it able to come down into this area and maybe do that same thing, right? Close some kind of big old cup and then get some kind of handle to then head to lower levels with some bad news. So we just really want to be open to the bullish and bearish sides still, but it really, and that's just until we get into further negative territory. That's why I'm not confident in saying like, hey, this thing's going to turn around very sharply. It really looks like people are confused which way this wants to go, and you can see that in the price action by these big swings, right? These big swings up and down over the past few days. Tesla, one of the scenarios that we were pointing out was this is a high up here. Maybe we do actually break out and form some kind of lower high. Okay, so this lower high could be considered a double top. So if we do come and break this level right here in the bearish case, this is really the level that you want to pay attention to. And I think we could fill this gap for sure if that happens. And then I'm actually going to be paying attention to that 207.42 if we see a little bit more dramatic pullback. If this wanted to head higher, I would think it needs to actually turn around, like kind of see this as consolidation. So we could just say if it wants to come test this level one more time, you can kind of just create a little line here, and just say, okay, if we break above this high, we might go test this high up here. And if we actually break below these lows in here, then we're most likely going to test this area again. And we've really beat the door, right? We've knocked on this door once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, almost 5 times. And then we move higher again. So if we do it a 5th time, it's really starting to add up for some kind of big old head and shoulders. And we could see this drop pretty dramatically and get to that 240 or 207.42 pretty quickly. Nvidia has been leading this market, and yes, we did get a big pop, right? We got a big pop out of Nvidia, but overall, you know, this could be some kind of cupping as well. So we could see some kind of cup and handle from this area because you do have this little consolidation in here, and you'll notice that the price action before we got there was pretty quick to the upside, which means we can cut through it pretty easily. Okay, so as of right now, you can see this huge cup, right? We've just completed it, and then this is kind of like a handle at this point. You can see that algorithm coming in, and now we're breaking down. So we have to see if this level right here, if this level between these lows is going to break right around 449.50. Let's see if that is able to hold or if we're going to break and head for that zone we're paying attention to, which is right in here, which coincides with this gap. I do believe that we have a good chance of coming down to that 422 and filling that gap probably by next week. Yields are heading down to my last support line right here. So this is my last line, kind of where I think that this will get that bounce. And it's right along that 200 on the daily. So these yields here can see this pop. And maybe that's what the Fed really solidifying, hey, we're not going to pivot. And if they do get the news of we're not going to pivot, then people are going to start to price in some kind of possible rate hike, right? But if that rate hike doesn't come to fruition, we can see that stop pretty quickly. So we really want to pay attention to it. As we switch over to TLT, you're just going to see this huge move. And we're pointing out exactly where it is right now. This is where we're pointing out that we could be setting up some kind of big left head and then a right shoulder. So we would have to get a decent size move in order to come down into here. That's why I'm not necessarily leaning towards it at this point. Maybe it's good to pay attention to those monthly ranges, but I do believe we do have a good chance to carve out some kind of right shoulder. Okay, I don't know how deep this will go in TLT, but I can just pay attention to this MACD, see when it curls down and curls back up into positive territory to see that higher low set up and then start to head to higher levels with another strong move. Volatility has been getting tighter and tighter, so we really could see some big volatility coming in. Yes, we've dropped a tiny bit in some stocks, but we're not seeing that volatility come to full strength with the SPY not selling off yet. So once the SPY does sell off, I think it will be pretty dramatic to catch up to a lot of what, you know, Nvidia's doing and what the Qs are doing. So that reversal signal I showed you over the weekend is actually still intact. So we really want to pay attention to that, and it looks like volatility can come back in. Yes, you are seeing it subside over a couple of days, but we're getting a green bar again above the 9-day moving average, which is kind of the first step into this MACD getting into positive territory. So it's just to show you if we do get some bad news, you can see how tight this Bollinger Band is, and every single time we get tight, we get these spikes, especially around that area of a reading of 1212. This is where I just wanted to point out the VVIX one more time is even tighter than the VIX. And this is the volatility of the volatility, right? This is the volatility of the VIX. And we can see that it's closing above the 20 and the 9 at the same time. So if it is able to get above the 50 and the 200, you're going to see volatility come back into this market very quickly. So the main takeaway here is it looks like volatility can pop with pretty much any kind of bad news that is coming. And we're seeing those negative trends start on a lot of stocks. but we need to continue into deeper levels on the MACD, on the hourly, to really see those negative trends continue and see some more dramatic selling. So we just really want to pay attention to what happens with Fed Jerome Powell next week, because I think there's a lot of pivoting coming into the narrative, and usually the herd is wrong, and right now the herd is saying pivot. So maybe actually the Fed just saying how they want to hold rates higher for longer actually can be seen as some bad news and needs to be priced into this market. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You guys are always liking, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Check out my course. It's down. It's 50% off until the end of the year. Okay, so grab that around Christmas time. And then also you can get those weekly ranges down there as well if you're interested in those for individual stocks. I really do appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. It means a lot to me. And I just hope you guys have a wonderful night and have all the luck in the world trading tomorrow.